ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. First of all, I thank everyone for joining today's session and special welcome to all new members who have joined today's session. Today's session, as we always discuss different interesting topic. Again, today's session is also quite interesting and quite logical, and it will give a high level overview of the Vedic knowledge, the different Vedas that we have at our great ancient Indian culture that we have. So just a quick understanding of what Vedas are, and then we'll dive into the content discussion, and then we'll be discussing the parts separately. So Vedas, the term Vedas, it is coming from Sanskrit roots from the word Vid, and the word Vid means to know. So Vedas, from if you look at from a Sanskrit meaning origin angle, then Vedas means it's knowledge, and everyone should we should know it. So Vedas means to know the great ancient knowledge available at our disposal, and especially for this, I mean, this human body, we have that privilege to dive into this great ancient knowledge. And now I have used this term, a great Indian mystery. So if you start diving into the Vedic knowledge, then Vedic knowledge is unlimited. It is like a great ocean. And over a period of time, since this knowledge was being stolen or this knowledge was being burned in different libraries, now we have only a very limited portion of this knowledge available with us. But this limited portion of knowledge is also unlimited, considering the fact that in the present time, we have a very limited time. We all are so much busy in our day-to-day affairs that we really do not get too much time. Though the current available knowledge is limited, but as we have limited time, this knowledge also becomes unlimited. So there is a mystery behind this knowledge, and how to catch the essence of this mystery, so that we can achieve the intention or the essence of the Vedic knowledge and make our life successful. So background, we have these topics. We have these topics that we'll be discussing. In the background, you can see the first topic is science behind Vedas. So science behind Vedas is giving a scientific perspective to the Vedic knowledge. As we know, the origin of the science on which most of the people in today's society believe, the science is originated not so long back. But if you go back to the roots of the Vedic knowledge is having at least the root 5,000 years before from now. I mean, it is more older, but at least 5,000 is the latest that we can for sure say, yes, it is available with us since last 5,000 years. So we'll be understanding how the Vedic knowledge, which was old in comparison to the science that we have with us, and what is the science behind that Vedic knowledge. Then we'll be talking about division of Vedic knowledge. As I mentioned in this introduction part, that Vedic knowledge is like an insurmountable ocean, even though it is not available in full with us today. So we'll be discussing we'll just have an overview of the different sections of the Vedas that we have. Then we'll be talking about two systems of knowledge, two systems, how we really gain knowledge, what is the art of gaining knowledge. One is deductive knowledge and inductive knowledge. We'll be talking about that. Then we'll just have a very high level overview of four Vedas, and then we will be getting into a apparent contradiction. So apparent contradiction is essentially, I would say, it's a apparent contradiction. Uh, it's like a quest. It's a question that arises when we start diving into the Vedic knowledge. Why there is a contradiction around it, and why things are not really simply as it should be. Then we'll be talking about some references from Bhagavad-Gita, specifically on Vedas, what Bhagavad-Gita is talking about Vedas. Then we'll be getting into the conclusion, what we should really learn out of it, and how we should really understand that mystery of Vedic knowledge. Let us start with the first, science behind Vedas. Science behind Vedas, basically, like as I mentioned, that Vedas originated earlier than the modern science that we have at our disposal today. And there are so many, like for most of the people in today's society, it is considered that the Vedas or the Vedic knowledge that we have at our disposal today, it is a mythology, or it is just a history which has no relevance in today's time. Science is far superior than the Vedic knowledge. So we are just trying to do a little assessment with this, some of the 4 facts by which we can understand that Vedic knowledge is far superior than the modern science, the knowledge that we have available from the perspective of modern science. So first is, we all know antiseptic qualities of cow dung. So cow dung from a Vedic perspective, originally it is considered as it has some herbal properties in it, and it is used for various medical purposes. Even the cow urine, it has some power, and it really helps in different ailments of the body. And this description was already there in our Vedic culture, in our Vedic knowledge. In 1940, the science did a research, and they also agreed that although it is a dung, it is just a stool of an animal, but it has the propensities, the medical propensities, which can heal in different ailments. So science also accepted it in 1940, which was there historically from at least last 5,000 years. Then second one is life in plants. So we all know, we must have studied when we were in our schools, that there was a scientist by the name Mr. J.C. Bose. So prior to his research, it was a belief in science that plants do not have life. So Mr. J.C. Bose, who was an Indian scientist, he did an extensive research, and he proved that plants also have life. So it was already there in our Vedic culture, or you can say Vedic knowledge, and science came to this conclusion at a later stage. Then third one is the fire bacteria. Fire bacteria, again, it was presumed as per science that there is no bacteria that exists in the fire as such. But in our Vedic culture, or in our Vedic knowledge, it was already there that there is a bacteria in the fire. And later on, science came to this conclusion that yes, fire do have bacteria. So they accepted what was already mentioned within our Vedic knowledge. Then we have a description of growth of embryo in mother's womb. So this description is mentioned pretty well in Srimad Bhagavatam, and the entire description which is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is absolutely tallying with the description that modern science provide in current scenario. So modern science, as we started with, that it is not very old, but Vedic science, which is pretty old, and they have already provided this description. So these are just few things, or few aspects of our Vedic knowledge, which proves that ultimately Vedic knowledge is not a mythology, but it is a reality. It is a proven fact which has been originated from our ancient rishi we call as Vedas. Vedas was an literary incarnation of the Lord. So he basically compiled all the Vedas and he provided all this knowledge for the welfare of entire humanity. Now we'll be getting into the section of the uh, the different division of Vedic knowledge. Again, this is a very detailed topic that can be discussed at length, but I will not be going into the detailed discussion of it. But I'll quickly summarize it how it is basically covered. So one is the Shruti Shruti section, another is the Smriti section. So as per the Shruti section, the understanding is the knowledge which we hear. Shruti means hearing. So in the historical times, the rishis they used to remember things just by hearing. So that comes under Shruti section. Smriti means what is being remembered. So you heard something, but what you remember, and then you convert that knowledge into a scripture, that is considered as Smriti section. So Shruti section primarily it consists of these four Vedas that all of us know: Rig, Yajur, Atharva, and Sam. Then when we talk about Smriti section, though it has many other components, but we are just talking about key components of the Shruti section as well as Smriti section. So Smriti section talks about Puranas, which is one of the main key section of Smriti. Then we have Itihas, Puran and Itihas. So in Puran section, we all know there are total 18 Puranas, and then we have Itihas. 18 Puranas are again divided into three sets. So 18 Puran has three subsets of it divided into 6. And then you can say initial 6 are into Sattva Guna, then the rest of the 6 are into Rajas Guna, and then the rest of the 6 are in Tamo Guna. We had a detailed discussion of what the Sattva Guna is, what Rajas Guna is, and what Tamo Guna in our earlier sessions. Now, the next section of the Smriti is Itihas. In Itihas, we have Ramayana as one of the main book. Then we have Mahabharata. Mahabharata also includes a section known as Shanti Parv, wherein Bhagavad-Gita was spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. So there are different schools of thoughts, and different schools of thought follow different sections. Like there are some schools of thought who follow Shruti section, there are some schools of thought who follow Smriti section. And for some of them, the belief is that Shruti section is superior to Smriti section, so they don't give much weightage to Smriti section. And so it is again a interesting question that comes across, that how can we really follow the Smriti section? So we follow Smriti section because so there are two aspects to it to understand. One is that Shruti section itself recommends or provides authority of Smriti section. Okay, Shruti section is also there, and they also proves the Smriti section of the Vedic knowledge. And another aspect is even the Shruti section gives references or talks about the real knowledge which should be applied in day-to-day life, and that knowledge is also at par, or there's an absolute harmony between the knowledge available in the Shruti section and the Smriti section. So this is a broader level division of the Vedic knowledge that we have. Then we have another section, two systems of knowledge, like we are talking about knowledge. And so any individual on this earth, any individual you talk about, every individual has a different set of approach when it comes to gaining the knowledge. So one is called as inductive method, another is called as deductive method. Now let us just take an example to understand the difference between the two methods of gaining knowledge. In first method, the approach is that you try to okay, let's take an example. So example is let's say you don't know, you're born into this world, you grew up, and unfortunately your father is not around you, so you do not know who is your father. So there are two options available to you to evaluate this fact. uh, so one option is the option when you start doing a research to understand who your father is. And during this process of research, you start doing DNA test of each and every person on this planet, which is almost an impossible task. So this is called as experimental, or I think this is called as inductive approach. Experimental. We keep on doing experiment rather than accepting any authority. Self experiment, and then that self experiment may be truth, may not be truth, for which the time can the time taking, it is a very time taking process, because you're doing an experiment. And then other process is that you simply make an inquiry from your mother, because she's the best person to tell you who your father is. That is known as the authoritative knowledge. You simply accepted the fact from the authority. So this is how we generally gain knowledge in this world. One is we gain knowledge by self experiment. Another is we gain knowledge by accepting an authority in our life. So we need to be quite careful and cautious on which approach we want to follow in our life, because most of the people in society follow a self experiment approach. And in that self experiment approach, they basically their life just goes, because we all have a limited time. And within that limited time, if we just keep on doing analysis, the outcome of that analysis would be that the time will simply go away. So self experiment is not considered as a and foolproof method of gaining knowledge. The best is accept an authority. So like in our Vedic scripture, we have Pratyaksh Praman, Anuman Praman, and Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman comes under the category of accepting an authority. You follow an authority rather than doing your own self experiment in terms of understanding this Vedic knowledge. So these are the two broader categories or departments of knowledge by which we try to gain knowledge within this world. Okay, now we will be talking about four Vedas. As I was mentioning that in our scriptures, when it comes to the Shruti section, in Shruti section we have four prominent Vedas. I mean, Vedas are four only: Rig, Yajur, Sam, and Atharva. Very simple. We are just doing a very high level overview. So Rig means the prayers. We make different prayers to the Lord. So Rig Veda contains different prayers that we offer to the Lord. Yajur Veda. Yajur Veda is coming from a Sanskrit root known as Yaj, which means sacrifices. So Yajur Veda talks about different sacrifices mentioned in our Vedic literature. Then we have Samved. Samved is talking about the musical aspect of our Vedas. Then we have Atharva Ved. Atharva Ved is talking about Athar. Atharva means economical. As soon as the economy comes into the picture, then people strive for gaining some material prosperity in their life. So these are the broader categories of the Vedic knowledge that we have available at our disposal. So I'm just giving you a high level overview of what all Vedic knowledge contains, because this if you start getting into it, then it is like, again, unlimited ocean. There are so many verses there within these different Vedas. You cannot really get into there. Nobody has time to really do an analysis or study into these four Vedas, because if you start pursuing that, probably your whole life will go on just pursuing the knowledge, because the aim of life is not just to gain the knowledge. We will come to that later. So four Vedas, high level overview. So if someone asks, you should just have some understanding of what Vedas are broadly talking about. Now, we were talking about apparent contradiction. Apparent contradiction is when you start studying the Vedas, so you'll start observing that there are so many contradictions. So something is said somewhere, and then again it is being contradicted at some other place. So there is a overlapping between the same set of knowledge. So at times it becomes quite confusing, and when it becomes quite confusing, then people think, okay, probably it is way beyond our head to understand this, and they keep it aside. I think it's quite confusing. Things are not clear. We cannot catch it. Let's put it aside. So there is an apparent contradiction between one set of knowledge and another set of knowledge. So simple example I'll give you. When I was talking about these 18 Puranas, within those 18 Puranas, there is a segregation, and the segregation is like Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. Mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. This is a broader division of those 666. So in one section, which is in Satogun, Lord Krishna is being advocated as Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you go into that Tamogun section of the Vedic knowledge, then you will understand, okay, there's a description that Lord Shiva is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how do we really reconcile that proposition? It becomes difficult, and people keeps on getting confused, or people then stops really diving deep into it, because ultimately they are unable to reach to any conclusion. So let us understand what is really going on behind this. Why this apparent contradiction is there? Or another example can be taken as in our Vedic scripture, we see that there is a section on Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda section is a section wherein there is a recommendation that, okay, if you do this, then probably you will go to heavenly planet, or if you help your if you kind of do some charity, then you will achieve this in your life. So it's like performing sakam karma with the intention of getting some benefits out of it. So there are many people who practice this Vedic knowledge. Okay, fine, let me do something. Let me do something. Let me do some sort of worship, and by doing that worship, I will gain something in my life, and that's enough for me. So this is how people usually practice, and then they take it forward. This is the aim of Vedic knowledge, and there is nothing beyond it. And they get attracted by the flowery language of the Vedas. So now, again, the question arises: why that aspect is discussed, which is not really an ideal aspect. Okay, we should not do karma ideally with the expectation to get something. Okay, we should not worship Lord to get something in our life. But this is being discussed there. It's not that it is not discussed. So how do we really deal with it? So these are the apparent contradictions that usually come across in the mind of people who try to study the Vedic knowledge deeply. So there are three answers by which we can really support this contradiction. One is parokshavad mama priyam. Parokshavad mama priyam means actually Lord is saying that Parokshavad means when there are apparent contradictions on the same subjects, I like it. Mama priyam. I like that, and that's why there is a contradiction. Because ultimately the knowledge is originating from God. Vedavyas only played the role of a compiler, and Vedavyas is also a literal incarnation of the Lord. When Vedavyas is a literal incarnation of the Lord, how Lord can provide the knowledge which is contradictory in itself? Because one of the nature of the Lord is He Himself is contradictory. If you read Bhagavad-Gita, He is telling about His qualities, different extremes. He's telling, I am this, I take birth, and I'm unborn also. I am everywhere, but I live in my spiritual abode also. So it becomes difficult to understand those aspects simply by logic. So parokshavada mama priyam. As soon as you understand that God has a contradicting nature, and because God has a contradicting nature, He has provided some section of Vedic knowledge which might be having contradicts within itself. So parokshavada mama priyam, because He likes that parokshavada, because He has that nature also when He will be contradicting, and that is where he's actually proving that ultimately logic is not everything in life. You can only apply logic to a certain extent. If you would, if you will try to understand Vedic knowledge by only applying logic, then you will not be able to reach to a proper conclusion. So paroksvad mama priyam, this is a first support for these apparent contradiction. Then second is different grades. Okay, now let's say if you are studying in a class, when we are studying in a class, it is the duty of the teacher to provide the knowledge to students in a way that if someone is very intelligent, who usually comes as topper in the class, and if someone is average or someone is just below average, so he should present knowledge in a manner that the topper also gets it, what the intent is, and the average also gets what teacher is really intending to teach, and the top below also, the below average also understand what is to be learned. So these are the different grades. So according to the different grades, different set of knowledge has been provided, because the idea is that God wants, okay, fine, today he might not be performing things on a pure platform, let him at least take shelter of Vedic knowledge. At least some way or other, he will begin something. And once he will begin something, then time will come. The time will come when he will be in a position to actually move ahead, either by association of devotees or by the grace of God, because some way or other he has accepted the path of Vedic knowledge. That is a positive thing, that at least he has accepted the Vedic knowledge. He may not have accepted it to the fullest extent or to on the platform of essence, but at least he has accepted it. He will gradually move forward. So that is okay, it's a beginning, fine, something has moved on. And when God is designing Vedic knowledge, or when God is really giving this Vedic knowledge to the world, then he has to consider for everyone. He cannot just consider for the ideal section of the society. When a society is formed, then everyone's interest should be taken into picture, not just one set of section of the society's interest should be taken into consideration. So different grades are there in our social system, and in order to provide knowledge, or in order to give them an opportunity to take the shelter of that knowledge, it is essential that they get that opportunity, and then they actually take a step forward of understanding the insights of the Vedic wisdom. Third is again, this is on apparent contradiction, why it is confusing. So like I was mentioning, when we are talking about essence, if everything is crystal clear to everyone, if entire Vedic knowledge is easily, if it can be easily understand, if I understand it easily, you understand it easily, entire world understand it easily, then it will lose its essence. If everything will be so simple to understand, so people will not really appreciate the value of devotion. Then that is why, if you really want to get hooked to essence, then it is very, very rare. A lot of people in this world might be practicing Vedic knowledge, but only practicing doesn't help. Or they might be practicing one set or one level of Vedic knowledge, or they might not have visibility of the next level of Vedic knowledge. You see, there is an absolute contrast that exists. So essence is rare. So people who will be able to reach to the level of essence, they will not be all. There will be only very few people in the society. So that is why the plot is being designed in a manner that everyone doesn't get reached to the top level, and that is why people, there's a lot of confusion. People get into arguments. They do not want to listen because everyone has certain set of own preconceived understanding. Okay, this is what I think so, and then they start following. They start following in a manner what they think as appropriate. So apparent contradiction is there within Vedic knowledge. Yes, it is there. How do we understand it? We can easily understand it on the basis of these three parameters. One is, let us understand the nature of the Lord. He himself is contradictory, as what he is telling in Bhagavad-Gita. So since he himself is contradictory, his knowledge will also be contradictory. And now how to overcome that contradiction? We can overcome that contradiction by taking shelter of the person who has created that contradiction. That's the only way. Otherwise, we'll not be able to understand. That's the reason when I started this slide, I told that ultimately only knowledge will not work. Knowledge is one of the aspect of the devotional journey. If we simply keep on studying, if we simply keep on analyzing things, we can keep on analyzing for day in and day out. Unless and until we do not take shelter of Vedic knowledge, we may not be in a position to reach to the essence. So there's a terminology known as Bharavahi and Saravahi. So Bharavahi means the one who only carries the burden. They may know a lot of Vedas. They might be expert in reciting the Vedic knowledge. They are known as burden carriers, probably. Burden carrier, they just have like big bag of knowledge at the back of them. And then there are another section who are considered as essence carrier. Essence carrier means the one who is carrying the essence. It may be that he might not have studied entire Vedic knowledge, but he's carrying the essence with him. He may not need to read all the books for that. And how he can carry that essence? He can carry that essence by taking shelter of the Vedic knowledge. And that's the best way to overcome all the apparent contradiction. And definitely the spiritual path is not like in one day you will understand everything. So as you will grow, you will have contradictions. You will keep on getting more, eventual contradictions. But if you will be under right shelter, then you can easily overcome those contradictions and make your life perfect. Okay, let's move further. What Bhagavad-Gita is talking about Vedas. This is again, Bhagavad-Gita, like, okay, let's go back now. When I was talking about this division of Vedas, we had a discussion in division of Vedas. We have Smriti section. We had then Shruti section. In Shruti section, we know that people just learn things by hearing Shruti, and then we have Smriti. Smriti. Yeah. Smriti means the one, the knowledge that comes by remembrance. So here, the one of these section basically talks about this itihas. In itihas, we have, Smriti is talking about itihas. In itihas, we have Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now, in Mahabharata, there is one parv known as Shanti Parv. In that Shanti Parv, there is a description of Bhagavad-Gita. You see, Bhagavad-Gita is just one branch of it. But what is the beauty of Bhagavad-Gita? The beauty of Bhagavad-Gita, among all other beauties, one of the best beauty of Bhagavad-Gita is that it is being spoken by the Lord himself directly. It is the only knowledge available to entire humanity in today's time, which has been directly spoken by the Lord Krishna himself. There is no other book which have been directly spoken by the Lord himself. So now since he has spoken it directly himself, he is giving essence there in Bhagavad Gita itself, because he knows that in Kali Yuga people will not be having time. In Kali Yuga people will have a very busy life. I need to provide them some essence. So what he's saying, Vedyam Pavitram Omkaram Riksam Yajur Evacha. That means I am the object of knowledge. So ultimately, what we want to gain from gaining the knowledge, we want to go to the object, and that object is the Lord Himself, the purifier and the salable Om. Now you see, a lot of people chant Om, and ultimately Krishna is telling that this word Om is nothing but it is my name only. It is my name only, and a lot of people chant, but they do not have that understanding even that Om is the name of the Lord Himself, and all the words have been originated from the word Om. Then he's telling, I am also the Rig, the Sam, and the Yajur Vedas. He's talking about uh, three of the Vedas. Now you see, okay, I can ask you a question. It is again slightly deep, but I'm not sure whether it is a correct explanation. But since I did an analysis, so total Vedas are four, and here three Vedas are mentioned in this shloka. The fourth is missing, and the fourth one is Atharva Ved. When we were discussing the four Vedas, Atharva Ved is missing. And when I was talking about Atharva Ved, there I mentioned that in Atharva Ved, usually the prayers are there for the purpose of seeking material benedictions. So he's kind of, Lord is disconnecting himself with that knowledge which is connected with gaining material benedictions. He doesn't want us to get into that trap, and that is why he is keeping himself separate from that, though it has been originated from ultimately Lord only, but he's still telling three is mine, one is okay. He's silent about one. Some research is required here. This is my understanding. Then another shloka 15.15, he's again telling something interesting. So you can see here, one is he's telling that Om is ultimately, Om is mine, it's my name. And then he's telling that I am also ultimately these Vedas are nothing but me only. And he's telling in 15.15, Vedas cha sarver aham eva vedyo Vedant krit Veda with evam chaham. Very nice shloka. Very interesting shloka. So he's now telling the essence of Vedas. Like, we know there are four Vedas, and probably any of us would not have ever read any of those Vedas. We already have spent more than half of our life. That's okay, not a problem. So here he's telling, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. So he's telling the essence of the Vedas here. The essence of the Vedas is to know Lord Himself. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So he's telling, I should be known from the Vedas. That should be the outcome of gaining knowledge. That if you do not know me, then there is no purpose of gaining the knowledge. And then he's telling, I am the knower of the Vedas. And he's telling, I know all the Vedas already. So he is proving to Arjuna that, all knowledge exists in me. You don't have to go anywhere else. So he is trying to, summarize things in a very short manner by proving or by confirming to Arjuna that you don't have to hanker for too much of knowledge, but you have to focus on devotional journey, and you have to focus on knowledge that supports your devotional journey. Don't get pampered by knowledge, the journey of Jnana Yoga. Take Jnana, which is supporting your devotion. Okay. Now we'll be talking about conclusion. We'll be just wrapping up our discussion. So conclusion, what do we really understand? See, one is there's unlimited knowledge available. There's no end to the knowledge that we have within our Vedic scripture. You can try and keep on doing your research whole life, and you may not be able to reach to any conclusion, because as I mentioned that there is a contradiction also that exists. So what to believe in, what not to believe in, at times it becomes difficult to determine. Then what is the option? Then the best option is learn to catch the essence. And how can we catch the essence? As we discussed in the previous shloka, at least to begin with, take shelter of knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. That will be a beginning of your journey. Take shelter of knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, and eventually things will start getting revealed to you with the passage of time on the basis of your sincerity, and you will have more and more clarity. Once you will have more and more clarity, and if you then dive into other aspects of Vedic knowledge, there is no problem with that. And use that knowledge in, I should say, in prospering your devotional journey. Don't get just stick to the knowledge, but use that knowledge to nourish your journey of devotion. Okay, careful to not to follow self-guided path. Be careful. It is very critical, and it is a very dangerous proposition, because we have observed in a lot of cases across the world, people are more interested in following a self-guided path. So in one of the, I was just contemplating yesterday in reference to this specific this problem, self-guided path. So I think this we had this discussion a couple of days back, and the difference between religion and spirituality. So I came across this fundamental fact: the people who want to follow spirituality and who do not want to be a part of any specific religion, but they want to follow spirituality, so they are mostly following a self-guided path. They are doing something or other. Okay, they are, at times they will pick this knowledge, at times they will put that knowledge, or they will keep on doing their own self experiment. So when they are doing self experiment, then they will not, they won't, they won't, then they don't want themselves to be a part of any specific religion or any specific system. Because once you are a part of a specific system, that means you need to follow certain, you need to follow certain decorum. You need to be under a guidance, which most of the people do not want to do. That is why people do not want to become a part of the organized religion or practice. People want to just follow some sort of spirituality and their own whims and fancies, which might be a dangerous proposition. So I request all of you, including me, to be very careful that we do not get into a zone when we start following a path which is guiding ourselves, unless and until we really become very advanced on the path of devotion. That takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So careful to not to follow self-guided path. Then third is take shelter of devotional service. This is very important, very critical. Why? Because as I mentioned, when it comes to the Vedic knowledge is talking about Karma Kand, Vedic knowledge is talking about Gyan Kand, Vedic knowledge is talking about other different yogas, Dhyan Yoga, everything is there. Vedic knowledge is also talking about Devi Puja, Shiv Puja, so much description of different demigods worship. Then even the Vedic knowledge is talking about different philosophies. There are 6 schools of thought. Under those 6 schools of thought, you will certainly get confused, because even so much atheism is going on within those 6 philosophies, and you will not be able to reach to a conclusion that God really exists. So too much when I showed that slide to you, divisions of Vedic knowledge. So the best and the safest proposition available to us in this scenario is, let us take shelter of devotional service. There is no other way. Let us take the shelter of devotional service. Once we will take shelter of devotional service, what will be the outcome? Okay, before we go to the outcome, once we take shelter of devotional service, what does it mean? It means ultimately we have to do chanting and hearing. Simple. Devotional service can be elaborated in multiple, patterns, because devotional service is endless. But yes, if we want to categorize in broad ones, then these two things are absolute necessity. So one is chanting. In fact, it starts from Shravanam. Shravanam means hearing. So like we are having this session today, you all are giving your time, you are listening me, you have spared your valuable time. So this is a process of hearing, and this is a devotional service. So this is one action. And what I am doing, I am chanting. I am chanting also, I am hearing also. And what you are doing, you are doing hearing. So both things are happening. At my level, both I'm chanting also, I'm hearing also. Because chanting also has, different dimensions. One chanting is when people chant in congregation, like they all come together and they participate in kirtan. That's one level of chanting. The other chanting is that when we chant on the beats individually, that is another level of chanting. Other level of chanting is when we are having this discourse, when we are trying to help other to understand the fundamentals of devotional journey. That is also a chanting. When we are talking to devotees, consulting them, advising them, you know, helping them in their resolving their queries, that is also chanting. So chanting has no limitation, because what is chanting? Chanting covers anything when you are trying to help others in his or her glorification of the Lordship. And once we start taking shelter of the devotional service, then Lord gives us necessary intelligence to understand all these absolute contradictions. And then, you know, the devotional journey is basically, it starts getting more and more mature day by day, and then we achieve perfection. Okay, so now I'm coming back to the topic. We started with Vedas, great Indian mystery. So as I said in the beginning, Vedas means to know. It is coming from Sanskrit root, that is with. Uh, so it means we should all know. Okay, fine. Once we know, then what is the next step? The next step is mystery. When you start getting into this knowledge and its application, you start realizing that it's a big mystery. And if you want that mystery to be unlocked, then you need regular guidance and support, because it's a mystery. It's like you just get into the ocean. And I was this again, I think I have this box, you all can see. So this box, some pirates in like when people collect these different stones from different parts. So in this it's also like a mystery, and they only had that expertise in, gathering those stones. So similarly, you may dive into the ocean, but you may not be able to catch those stones. So it's like a mystery, and they have that expertise. So similarly, when you are on the path of devotional journey, you need to take shelter of devotees who can help you to make, who can help you to understand things in a very easy manner. Otherwise, life and things becomes complicated, and unfortunately, people don't reach to any conclusion. They practice a lot, but they are following self-guided path. Sometimes they will pick something from here, sometimes they will pick something from there, and then it's all khichdi. They just mix it up and then they try to digest it, and they cannot digest it because it's all khichdi, but they don't know what should be the composition of rice in it, what should be the composition of dal in it, what should be the composition of masalas. If you do not know the composition, then it can create to indigestion. So with this note, so I'm concluding my session. So just keep these three fundamentals always on the top of your head if you really want to get into the deeper insights of this journey of devotion, and if you want to understand the mysteries of this Indian Vedas. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.